Hello, everyone. My name is Leonor Díaz-Córdova, and I'm a director of legal services at CT Group. I'm joined by Nathalie Allen and Natalie Cossey, both who, like me, have a background in international arbitration. Nathalie Allen is a legal director in Addleshaw Goddard's commercial disputes team and has extensive experience in both international commercial arbitration and investor state disputes. Natalie Cossey was previously a senior associate at WilmerHale's international arbitration team, and she has since retrained in behavioral science and now works for an organization called MindGym, a company specializing in behavior change in organizations. And the reason we're here today is to discuss the importance of diversity in international arbitration, and in particular, cognitive diversity, diversity of thought. The three of us have spent some time looking into diversity, not just from a moral or ethical standpoint, but rather from the value it brings to decision-making and how it can strengthen the decision-making process, particularly within the context of a three-member arbitral tribunal. So when we look at decision science and the studies done on the impact of cognitive diversity, Natalie, from your behavioral science background, what does research say about when group decision-making goes wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to acknowledge is that group decision making can be the most robust way of reaching a conclusion or a decision. But there are significant challenges in unlocking the collective wisdom of a group. And most listeners will be familiar with the idea that human decision making is fraught with bias. It's hardwired in us and we can't get away from it. And depending on the composition of a group can fail to challenge or even worse, reinforce those biases. So, for example, when a group is very alike or there is too much deference to one member of a group, we're less likely to challenge each other's blind spots, or we can display what we call groupthink. So basically, when our desire for collaboration overrides the need to make a rational decision. And of course, this can be troublesome for arbitration tribunals. And the bad news is that collegiality peaks in groups of about 3 to 4 members. But it's not just a concern for arbitration tribunals. This is kind of behavior that will be seen in law firms too. And I expect that most listeners will have been in a situation where there's been a senior person in the room and other participants deferred to their point of view rather than voicing a different one. And this is kind of a real life example of what we mean by groupthink.
Is there a way we can train ourselves to overcome our biases and reduce the risk of groupthink?
In a word, no. It's basically impossible to do this because these kind of biases are so ingrained in our way of thinking. And there have been lots of studies which show that unconscious bias training has limited to no effect on behavior. And in fact, raising awareness of bias can even make that behavior worse. And so here's where we come on to our paper. The best solution is to change the architecture of the decision-making group. So in our paper, we described the research which shows that increasing the diversity of a group can help improve the quality of the decision making, because when a group comes from more diverse perspectives, they're likely to have what we would call a higher collective intelligence. They're more likely to challenge each other, which is obviously great for decision making. And outside the world of arbitration tribunals, research has also shown that a great way of unlocking the benefits of diverse groups is to increase inclusion. And we mean something really specific by that. So when we talk about inclusion, we really mean increasing a sense of someone's belonging in a decision-making group and also valuing their uniqueness. And there's been lots of research that shows that these are the essential conditions to increase the potential of diverse groups. And I'm very proud to say that at the MindGym, a large portion of the work is helping organisations unlock the benefits of collective wisdom by increasing inclusion.
Started that reply on the negative of we can't overcome our biases, so I'm very glad that you came out of it with a positive and how we can actually improve decision making even if we cannot just get rid of our biases. Much for that. If we move now back to arbitration specifically, I'd like to ask a couple of questions to the other Nathalie Allen. CT Group and Addleshaw Goddard are co-hosting. We're co-hosting a series of roundtables on gender, ethnic, and age diversity in international arbitration. So, from your perspective, Nathalie, as a seasoned arbitration practitioner, what initiatives are we seeing in relation to diversity within international arbitration and arbitrator candidates in particular? And I appreciate there might be a very large number of initiatives, so maybe which ones do you think are the most relevant?
Thank you. I think we're seeing a number of different initiatives. I think there's real willing to address the issue of diversity from a moral perspective and from the perspective of ensuring everybody has opportunity, which is slightly different to what we addressed in our article. But the initiatives are helpful when it comes to what we discussed in the article. In terms of gender diversity, I think the big thing that's known about is obviously the equal representation of arbitrator pledge, and the pledge has been enormously successful. There's been real uptake. People have stopped and paid attention. It takes a long time for change to come about, but I think that certainly in my own practice, and when I talk to other arbitration practitioners, other firms, the short list of arbitrator candidates that we consider when it comes to appointing, many more women are appearing on that shortlist, and as a result, more women are being appointed as arbitrators. Query whether enough yet, and I don't think we're close to a 50-50 by any stretch, but definitely it is an issue that is discussed, and as time goes by, it's becoming more and more natural, and these women are named, they're names that we are seeing again and again, and not just the well-established names that have been around for a long time, but newer names as well. So I think we are seeing that the pledge has done a lot of really positive work. I think the pledge has also encouraged practitioners who appoint arbitrators to think about other forms of diversity, and so we are seeing now a greater focus on ethnic diversity, which seems to me only natural given that we are talking primarily about international arbitration. The participants are expected to come from all over the globe, and therefore arbitrators should also come from all over the globe. So we see things like the African Promise, which is designed to promote more African arbitrators, and given that a lot of disputes are based in or linked to Africa, that makes complete sense. And then there's the Real initiative, which is also looking towards promoting greater awareness of ethnic diversity, and again, ensuring that shortlists are more diverse. I know that at AG we try very hard, if a shortlist is not diverse, to take a step back and think about who to add. That obviously fits the bill, but to challenge ourselves to think more widely again, rather than reverting back to household names. I think with regards to age diversity, that is a much newer topic. It is something that people are more wary of, and we are seeing that there's a wariness with regards to people not having necessarily enough experience, and that's probably a mistake. But we need to try, and I think in terms of initiatives, we need to try and see, and the rising arbitrators are doing that, we need to try and see where there are opportunities for people to get their first, second, third appointment, and in order to build a body of experience that practitioners there and go on to trust. An obvious way of doing that is if you have two experienced party-appointed arbitrators, for them to decide to take the leap and appoint someone who, as a practitioner, has a lot of experience, but who might have less experience as an arbitrator or might only have experience as a tribunal secretary. So I'm hoping that we will see a greater focus on that.
So much. So the purpose of having this conversation, the three of us, was basically to provide an introduction to those 3 upcoming roundtables we have on ethnic and age and gender diversity, all stemming from that cognitive diversity, which is what initially brought the 3 of us together and made us write the article that you both mentioned. So I think, yeah, this is a very good way to introduce the other 3 roundtables, and I thank you both very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.